jumping on today to talk a little bit about branding. And I think this month, all of March, we're going to be focusing on branding and identity and how you really position yourself as a business owner so that people know who you are, what you do, and the value you bring. I think maybe over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, when I first started my business, I had someone approach me about writing some custom content, and we were talking about presence and branding and identity. And the young lady who I was speaking to said, I feel like branding is so cheesy, to be constantly talking about yourself just makes you seem really self-centered and it seems egotistical. How do I position and create a brand when I don't want to come off this way? And one of, I think, the biggest takeaways from that conversation, I did like a LinkedIn post about it and did a video about it. But one of the biggest things that came away from that conversation is branding, who you are, your brand identity, is more about what people say about you after you leave the room. It's not what you actually say, it's what people receive, right? It's all about the impression that you leave behind. And what we're trying to do with branding, us as people, as individuals, but also as brands, as business owners, what we're trying to do is to have more influence off of what that perception is, right? So if you're curious what your brand is, or if maybe even worse, you're a person who says, oh, I don't have a brand, I guarantee you absolutely do have a brand. But the conversation is really about whether or not you are influencing what that brand is. Are you influencing the perception that people have of you after you leave the room? And of course you're influencing it, but are you influencing it in a positive way? So I wanted to pose a branding challenge to folks if you're up for it. And this is a great exercise whether you're trying to get yourself together on your LinkedIn profile or you're a brand new business owner and are trying to figure out how to position yourself and your voice on your website. No matter where you are in the spectrum, in terms of thinking about identity and branding, this is a really fun challenge that I encourage you to take on. And the challenge is this. The challenge is to distill your brand using only friends and family's perception of you. Now, I'm posing this challenge because I myself had to undertake a similar challenge recently, trying to distill kind of the essence of myself from others. And I was asking people, what are the qualities I bring into the room? What's your perception of me? And one, right, the best thing that you're going to get right away is people are going to say amazing, amazing things about you. But two, depending on who you ask, you might get some interesting takes on it. So it kind of, one, immediately shows you how many facets of yourself that you expose at a given point in time. But two, what a great feel good for people to tell you how they feel about you in a really positive and motivating way. So this is the challenge if you're ready to take it on. I challenge you to write down 15 names. 15 names. 5 are people who are close to you who've known you for at least a year personally. 5 are going to be people who you've worked with, either in a direct report relationship or as teammates. So think about people you've worked with who you've managed in the past, people who have mentored you, bosses you've had, right? Colleagues who you've worked with, 5 of those. And then 5, I want you to list people who have known you for less than a year, people you've just met, maybe a casual acquaintance. And for each of these people, these 15 people, you're going to ask the same question. You're going to call them up and ask them, how would you describe me to a potential client? How would you describe me to a potential client? And if you're not a business owner and you're just kind of thinking about it, then how would you describe me or my products and services to a good friend? Now, this is a fun exercise because I use a very similar question when I get feedback from current clients. How would you describe it to a friend? How would you describe the experience to a friend? And you get these like amazing responses from people and really these creative, beautiful descriptions of their experience because it's positioned from their point of view and you start to see things from someone else's eyes. You start to see yourself from someone else's eyes. And as you ask these up to 15 people this question, I challenge you to write down as much as you can and then start to mold it and distill it and see what you get. I'm going to drop a freebie with this video, a quick exercise so you can start thinking it through, how to leverage some of the feedback you get around this. But what I need you to understand is that all of those things that people say about you, that's your brand. And you can decide if you like it, if you don't like it, if it resonates with you, if it doesn't. But if it doesn't resonate, if you don't find truth and power in the feedback that you're getting from others about their impression and feeling of you after you leave the room, then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Because of course, our brand isn't what we say and do, but what we say and do impacts that brand perception. And so I challenge you, if you want to show up as this like amazing, caring, empowering person, then what would that person do? How would they behave? What would they say? And how would they say it? And that's kind of the next step in terms of thinking about brand's identity. But first, let's take this brand challenge, write down your 15 people, and start compiling what is your brand today. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Definitely hit me up in the comments and let me know what you got. All right, talk to you later. Bye.